The air thrummed with lunar energy, the ground pulsing where roots entwined with hidden runes, remnants of a time when werewolves wove magic as freely as they shifted. Sorenya Draith, 25, knelt before a weathered marking stone deep in the wilds, its surface etched with crescent sigils that glowed faintly under her touch. Her emerald eyes narrowed, studying the carvings, her raven hair spilling over her shoulders, catching the moonlight. Her healer's hands, calloused yet precise, traced the stone's edges. Her crescent scar, a jagged mark on her wrist from a childhood ritual, burning with sudden heat. Her thoughts flickered, unbidden memories surfacing, a boy's laughter, his hand in hers, promises whispered under starlight. She'd dismissed them as childish dreams, crushed by her parents' feud with a rival clan. But the scar's pulse stirred unease, a pull she couldn't name. As a Shadowfang werewolf, trained in clan traditions of strength and healing, she knew her power, swift shifts into a lithe gray wolf, runes that mended flesh, but this sensation was foreign, like a song half remembered. The forest silence shattered with the rustle, leaves parting as a massive black wolf emerged, its storm blue eyes locking onto hers with an intensity that stole her breath. The wolf shifted, fur melting into human form, revealing Garrick Rhowan, 28, Blood Moon Alpha, his broad frame clad in worn leather, his dark hair tousled, a crescent scar mirroring hers on his wrist. His presence crashed over her like a tide, memories flooding back, their childhood love, secret meetings in these very woods, a rogue elder's ritual binding them as mates under a moonlit canopy. They'd believed their parents' rivalry tore them apart, unaware of a deeper truth. "Sorenya," Garrick said, his voice low, rough with emotion, each syllable a spark reigniting a fire long buried. Her heart raced, the mate bond pulsing through their scars, a warmth that defied years of separation. Her thoughts churned, his touch in their youth, his promises to defy their clans, the pain of their parting when Shadowfang and Blood Moon tore them away. "Garrick," she whispered, stepping closer, her fingers brushing his scar, igniting a spark that made them both flinch, their bond a living thing, stirring beneath their skin. Their moment shattered as Vespera, Sorenya's mentor and mother, 50, emerged from the mist, her silver-streaked hair glinting, her eyes sharp with warning. Her presence carried the weight of Shadowfang's traditions, her robes embroidered with lunar runes that shimmered faintly. "Step back, Sorenya," Vespera commanded, her voice laced with urgency, her gaze flicking between them. "This bond is forbidden." Sorenya froze, her hand dropping, confusion warring with the bond's pull. Vespera's eyes softened, but held firm as they met Garrick's. "You know the cost, Blood Moon," she said, her tone a mix of pity and resolve. Garrick's jaw tightened, his thoughts a storm. Sorenya's laughter in their childhood, their vows under the stars, the years spent believing her clan had stolen her from him. "We were children," he said, his voice steady, but raw with pain. "We didn't know what we were defying." Vespera's expression darkened, her silence heavy, the air around her seeming to thicken. "There's a curse," she said finally, her words cutting through the mist like a blade. "Cross-clan bonds bring madness to our kind. You are marked in secret, against clan law, by an elder who paid with her life." Sorenya's breath caught, her thoughts reeling. Their marking wasn't just a childish act, but a defiance of an ancient curse, hidden from them by their parents' lies. Her scar burned hotter, the mate bond urging her toward Garrick, but Vespera's warning echoed. Feral madness, clans torn apart. Her mind flashed to her training, the stories of Shadowfang's honor, the warnings of Blood Moon's treachery. None had mentioned a curse. Garrick stepped closer, his hand grazing hers, his storm blue eyes searching hers. "I don't care about curses," he said, his voice low, wove with conviction, each word heavy with conviction. Her heart ached, torn between the warmth of his touch and the chilling truth of Vespera's words. She wanted to reach for him, to reclaim the dreams they'd woven as children, but the weight of the curse pressed against her, a shadow she couldn't yet grasp. Before she could respond, howls erupted, shattering the forest's silence. Blood Move warriors crashed through the trees, led by Draven, Garrick's beta, 30, his hazel eyes narrowing at Sorenya, his wolf form bristling with suspicion. "Garrick, we're exposed," Draven growled, his voice tense, his gaze flicking to the marking stone. Garrick's posture stiffened, his thoughts racing. Sorenya's presence, the curse's threat, his duty to protect his clan. "Stay close," he told Sorenya, his voice firm, his hand brushing hers, their bond a spark against the looming danger. Sorenya nodded, her healer's instincts kicking in, her runes glowing faintly as she prepared to fight, her thoughts a mix of fear and resolve. Garrick was here, and she wouldn't lose him again. The ambush came swiftly, Shadowfang scouts emerging from the shadows, led by Mira, the Blood Moon traitor, 27. Her amber eyes glinting with malice, her presence a shock to Garrick. "Traitor," he snarled, recognizing her to spend her guise as a Shadowfang ally. Mira smirked, her claws flashing as she signaled her warriors. The forest erupted into chaos, claws clashing, fur flying, the air thick with the scent of blood and lunar magic. Sorenya's runes flared, a shield of lunar light snapping into place, deflecting a Shadowfang claw aimed at Garrick. She shifted, her gray wolf form lithe and swift, her fangs sinking into an attacker's flank. Garrick's black wolf form was a blur, his claws tearing through another scout, their movements synchronized, the mate bond guiding them like a shared heartbeat. Garrick's thoughts burned, Sorenya's strength, her courage, the years he'd searched for her, believing her lost to clan politics. A Shadowfang claw grazed Sorenya's arm, blood welling, and Garrick roared, his fangs sinking into the attacker, ending the threat. Sorenya's runes pulsed, healing her wound in a flash of light, her emerald eyes meeting his, a silent promise passing between them. "We're stronger together," she said, her voice steady despite the pain, her thoughts clinging to their childhood, his hand in hers, their dreams of defying their clans. The skirmish waned, the surviving scouts retreating, but Mira's gaze lingered, her treachery hidden behind a mask of loyalty. Draven pulled Garrick aside, his voice low and urgent. "She's Shadowfang, Garrick. This bond will destroy us all." Garrick's eyes hardened, his thoughts resolute. "Sorenya is my mate, curse or not, and I will fight for her." Sorenya faced Vespera, her voice shaking with betrayal. "Why didn't you tell me about the curse?" Vespera's expression softened, guilt flickering in her eyes. "I wanted to protect you," she said, her hands trembling, her robes catching the moonlight. "The curse brings chaos, feral madness, clans torn apart. Your marking was a mistake, a reckless act by an elder who believed love could heal." Sorenya's thoughts spiraled, her love for Garrick, their stolen childhood, the curse's shadow now threatening everything. She wanted to scream, to demand why their parents had lied, but the weight of Vespera's words held her silent. Kale, the neutral Duskfang Alpha, 35, arrived with his warriors, his braided hair swaying as he assessed the scene, his calm presence a stark contrast to the chaos. "This feud bleeds us all," he said, his voice firm but measured, his eyes flicking between Sorenya and Garrick. "Your bond threatens more than your clans. It risks awakening the curse's full wrath." Sorenya's heart sunk, her thoughts on Garrick, his defiance, their shared scar, the love they'd rediscovered. Garrick stepped forward, his voice a challenge. "We'll face it together, Kale. Curse or no curse." But the curse's first vision struck. Feral eyes glowing in the shadows, wolves turning on kin, their snarls echoing in Sorenya's mind. Her breath hitched, fear warring with her love for Garrick, the reality of the curse sinking in. A Shadowfang horn sounded, signaling a larger attack, and the forest erupted again. Shadowfang warriors, led by Korath's lieutenants, surged forward, their howls a promise of violence. Garrick grabbed Sorenya's hand, pulling her toward cover, but the tide of battle swept them apart. Shadowfang claws dragged her toward their stronghold, their grips bruising, while Blood Moon warriors pulled Garrick back, Draven's voice barking orders. Sorenya's thoughts clung to Garrick, his strong blue eyes, their childhood promises, the curse's truth now a chasm between them. She wanted to reach for him, to reclaim the dreams they'd woven as children, but the weight of the curse pressed against her, a shadow she couldn't yet grasp. Vespera followed Sorenya, her voice a desperate whisper. "Stay away from him, or you'll doom us all." The forest fell silent, the marking stone's glow fading, its runes dimming as clouds obscured the moon. Sorenya's heart pounded, her thoughts a whirl of love and fear. Garrick's touch, their shared scar, the curse's shadow, threatening to consume them. Garrick, dragged back to Blood Moon territory, roared her name. His thoughts resolute, he'd find her, no matter the cost. The stage was set, their love a spark in the gathering storm, the curse's feral whispers echoing as Moonspire braced for the coming war.
The Shadowfang's stronghold loomed over Moonspire's craggy cliffs, its stone walls etched with lunar runes that pulse faintly under a waxing moon, their glow a stark contrast to the tension within. Torches cast flickering shadows across the great hall where clan elders and warriors gathered, their murmurs a low growl of distrust and unease. Sorenya Draith stood before the council, her raven hair pulled tightly back, her emerald eyes sharp despite the exhaustion that clung to her like a second skin. Her crescent scar, a mark from the childhood ritual binding her to Garrick Rhowan, burned with a relentless heat, the mate bond pulsing in her veins, a fire that clashed with the ancient curse Vespera had revealed in their recent forest encounter. That curse, forbidding cross-clan bonds with the thread of feral madness, was a truth she and Garrick had mistaken for mere parental opposition in their youth. Her thoughts churned, Garrick's fierce touch in the forest, their whispered childhood promises, the bitter realization that their parents' feud had masked a deeper, more sinister prohibition. As a Shadowfang werewolf, her skills were honed, swift shifts into a lithe gray wolf, healing runes that glowed with lunar light, capable of mending flesh in moments. But the bond's intensity strained her control, her claws flickering unbidden at her fingertips, her senses sharpening to an almost painful edge. Vespera stood at the council's head, her silver-streaked hair catching the torchlight, her robes embroidered with runes that shimmered faintly. Her voice was measured, but carried the weight of authority. "The curse is no myth," she said, addressing the elders, her gaze lingering on Sorenya with a mix of concern and resolve. "Cross-clan bonds threaten our survival, our sanity. Sorenya, you must sever this tie with the Blood Moon Alpha." The elders nodded, their eyes cold, some glinting with suspicion, others with fear of the chaos foretold. Sorenya's heart rebelled, her thoughts flashing to Garrick, his storm-blue eyes, his vow in the forest to defy the curse, the warmth of his hand against hers. "I won't abandon him," she said, her voice steady despite the tremor in her chest, her runes pulsing faintly under her skin, a soft glow that drew wary glances. The elders' growls rose, accusing her of disloyalty, of endangering Shadowfang's honor. The sparrow raised her hand, silencing them, her tone softening but cryptic. "Train harder, Sorenya," she said, her eyes hinting at secrets unspoken. "There's a traitor among us, feeding this feud's fire." Sorenya's thoughts snagged. Traitor? Her mind raced to the ambush in the forest, the glint of amber eyes in the chaos, but she pushed the suspicion aside, her focus anchored on Garrick, on the bond that refused to let her go. Across Moonspire, in the Blood Moon enclave nestled in a shadowed valley, the air was thick with the scent of iron and smoke. The firelit hall echoed with the low growls of warriors, their council convened under vaulted stone ceilings. Garrick Rhowan stood at the center, his broad frame clad in scarred leather, his dark hair tousled from restless nights, his crescent scar pulsing with Sorenya's presence, a warmth that steadied him against the curse's chilling weight. His thoughts were a storm, her courage in the forest, their stolen childhood moments, the curse's shadow now threatening their rediscovered love. Draven, his beta, paced beside him, his hazel eyes narrowed with suspicion, his lean frame tense. "The clan demands you marry within Blood Moon," Draven said, his voice low but urgent, his gaze sharp. "This Shadowfang girl endangers us all, Garrick. The elders speak of unrest, of weakness." Garrick's jaw tightened, his thoughts resolute. "Sorenya is my mate, curse or no curse, a truth etched into his soul. I won't betray her," he said, his voice a growl, his wolf form itching beneath his skin, ready to break free. The elders muttered, their distrust palpable, whispers of tradition and lineage clashing with Garrick's defiance. His authority as Alpha held them at bay, but the tension simmered. His thoughts on Sorenya, her healing runes, her unyielding spirit, their bond unbroken despite the clan's demands. In Moonspire's undercity, a labyrinth of tunnels carved beneath the cliffs, Sorenya and Garrick met in secret, their mate bond guiding them through shadowed passages where ancient runes flickered on damp stone walls. The air was heavy with the scent of earth and moss, the tunnels lit only by the faint glow of their crescent scars. Sorenya's breath caught as Garrick pulled her into an alcove, his hands framing her face, his storm-blue eyes searching hers with an intensity that made her heart pound. The mate bond flared, their thoughts merging, memories of childhood laughter, stolen glances under moonlight, promises to defy their clan's hatred. Sorenya's runes glowed softly, her claws retracting as she melted into him, her hands tracing the planes of his chest. "We're stronger together," she murmured, her thoughts clinging to their shared dreams, the curse a distant shadow in this stolen moment. Their kiss deepened, hungry and desperate, the world narrowing to the heat of their touch, the pulse of their bond drowning out the danger. The moment shattered with a rustle. Draven sent sharp in the tunnel. He emerged from the shadows, his eyes flashing with suspicion, his wolf form barely restrained. "You're risking everything," Draven said, his voice tight, his gaze flicking to Sorenya with barely concealed distrust. "The clan's restless, and Shadowfang's spies are everywhere." Garrick's jaw tightened, his thoughts fierce. Draven is loyal, but his doubt stung like a blade. "She's my mate," Garrick said, his tone unyielding, his storm-blue eyes locked on Draven. "Stand with us or step aside." Draven's jaw clenched, his thoughts a tangle of loyalty to Garrick and duty to Bloodmoon. He hesitated, then nodded curtly, retreating into the tunnels, his footsteps echoing. Sorenya's thoughts swirled. Draven's warning, the curse's threat, Vespera's cryptic hint of a traitor. Her hand rested on her abdomen, a faint nausea stirring, a secret she hadn't yet named, its weight settling in her bones. Back in the Shadowfang stronghold, Sorenya trained under Vespera's watchful eye, her runes flaring brighter as she wove healing spells, her shifts into her gray wolf form swifter but increasingly erratic, the mate bond amplifying her power to a dangerous edge. Vespera's teachings grew more cryptic, her words laced with riddles that set her nerves on edge. "The curse stirs because of betrayal," Vespera said, guiding her hands to channel a rune that sealed a warrior's wound. Sorenya's thoughts snagged. Mira's smirk in the forest, amber eyes too knowing, too sharp. Suspicion coiled in her chest, but exhaustion clouded her focus, her body heavy, her scar pulsing with Garrick's distant presence. That night, alone in her quarters, she doubled over, nausea confirming her fear. She was pregnant, carrying Aeloria, their moonborn child, a secret that complicated their defiance of the curse. Her thoughts raced. Garrick's love, their child, the curse's threat now a tangible danger that could unravel everything.
Garrick, in Blood Moon territory, faced mounting pressure from his elders, their demands for a Blood Moon mate growing louder, their voices echoing in the firelit hall. "Our lineage must endure," one elder growled, his eyes glinting with tradition's weight. Garrick's thoughts burned with Sorenya, her kiss in the undercity, their bond of fire no clan could extinguish. He slipped away, defying the council, meeting Sorenya again in a hidden grove beyond Moonspire's cliffs, where moonlight filtered through twisted oaks. Their scars flared as they embraced, Garrick's hands tracing her face, his voice a vow. "We'll find a way, Sorenya, together." Sorenya's heart ached, her thoughts heavy with Aeloria's existence, but fear of the curse's visions, feral wolves tearing at kin, clans consumed by madness, kept her silent. Their kiss was a desperate claim, the bond a pulse of defiance, but the moment shattered as Shadowfang horns blared, signaling a raid. Korath, Shadowfang's alpha, led the assault, his obsidian eyes glinting with ruthless intent, as his warriors stormed the grove, their claws flashing in the moonlight. "End this abomination," Korath roared, his beast form looming, claws like jagged blades slashing through the air. Sorenya's runes flared, a shield of lunar light snapping into place, protecting Garrick as he shifted, his black wolf form a blur against Korath's forces. They fought as one, her healing runes mending his wounds mid-battle, his claws shielding her from flanking attacks. Her thoughts were a whirlwind, Garrick's strength, their unborn child, the curse's visions creeping closer, their snarls echoing in her mind. Mira, disguised among the Shadowfang ranks, struck with precision, her betrayal hidden, her claws grazing Sorenya's side, drawing blood. Garrick roared, driving Mira back, his fangs snapping, but the raid's ferocity overwhelmed them, the air thick with the scent of blood and lunar magic. The skirmish ended with Shadowfang retreating, Korath's parting glare a promise of more violence, his voice a low growl, "Your love will be your ruin." Sorenya and Garrick were torn apart, Blood Moon warriors pulling him back to their enclave, Shadowfang scouts dragging her toward their stronghold, their grips bruising her arms. Her thoughts clung to Garrick, his vow in the grove, their desperate kiss, Aeloria's secret now a weight she carried alone. Vespera appeared, her voice urgent, her silver-streaked hair catching the fading moonlight. "The curse's visions are real, Sorenya. Stay away from him, or we'll all pay the price." Garrick, restrained by Draven's firm grip, roared Sorenya's name, his thoughts resolute. She was his mate, and no curse would break them. The grove fell silent, the moonlight dimming as clouds rolled in, the curse's pharaoh whispers echoing in the air, a chilling portent of the trials ahead. Sorenya, back in the Shadowfang stronghold, stood alone in her quarters, her hand resting on her abdomen, Aeloria's presence a quiet pulse within her. Her thoughts were a tangle, Garrick's defiance, their stolen moments, the traitor Vespera warned of, the curse's visions that haunted her dreams. She wove a rune, its glow faint but steady, a promise to protect her child, to fight for Garrick, no matter the cost. Across Moonspire, Garrick sat in the Blood Moon Hall, his scar burning, his thoughts on Sorenya, her courage, their bond, the future they could still claim. The clans were fracturing, the curse's shadow lengthening, but their love burned brighter, a flame that refused to be extinguished, even as the traitor's schemes and the curse's wrath loomed closer.
The wilds of Moonspire sprawled beyond the cliffs, a labyrinth of ancient trees with gnarled branches clawing at the sky, their roots entwined with moss-covered moons that flickered like embers in the pre-dawn mist. The air thrummed with latent lunar energy, heavy with the weight of secrets older than the clans themselves. Sorenya Draith moved like a shadow through the undergrowth, her raven hair catching the faint silver of a waning moon, her emerald eyes scanning the darkness for signs of pursuit. Her crescent scar, a mark from the childhood ritual binding her to Garrick Rhowan, burned with a relentless heat, the mate bond pulsing in her veins, urging her forward despite the Shadowfang Council's decree to sever all ties with him. Her thoughts were a tempest. Garrick's desperate kiss in the undercity shadows, their whispered promises under starlit canopies, the bitter truth revealed in the forest that their parents' feud had masked an ancient curse. That curse, forbidding cross-clan bonds with the threat of feral madness, loomed like a specter, its reality sinking deeper with every step. As a Shadowfang werewolf, her powers were honed, swift shifts into a lithe gray wolf, healing runes that glowed with lunar light, capable of mending flesh in moments. But the mate bond amplified them to a dangerous edge, her claws flickering unbidden, her senses so sharp she could hear the heartbeat of a deer half a mile away. The weight of Aeloria, her unborn child, pressed against her, a secret discovered in the grove, its implications a tangled knot of hope and dread. A low growl pierced the silence, and Garrick Rhowan emerged from a glade, his massive black wolf form melting into human shape, his storm blue eyes locking onto hers with an intensity that stole her breath. His leather tunic, scarred from recent battles, clung to his broad frame, his dark hair tousled, his crescent scar pulsing in sync with hers, their mate bond a lifeline that burned through the curse's chill. His thoughts churned. Sorenya's courage during the raid, their stolen moments in the undercity, the Blood Moon Elder's demands threatening to tear them apart. "Sorenya," he said, his voice rough with emotion, crossing the glade in 3 strides to pull her into his arms. The embrace was fierce, their scars flaring, the bond weaving their thoughts together. Memories of childhood laughter, secret vows under a moonlit oak, the bitter truth revealed in the forest that their parents' feud had masked an ancient curse. "We're not them," he said, his voice firm, his hand squeezing Sorenya's. "We'll rewrite their story, Draven." Sorenya nodded, her thoughts on Aeloria, her child, their hope, a beacon against the curse's darkness. Vespera's scent reached them before her form, a whisper of lunar magic preceding her. She emerged from the mist, her silver-streaked hair glinting, her robes embroidered with runes that shimmered faintly, her presence carrying the weight of Shadowfang's traditions. Her eyes held a flicker of defiance, a crack in her usual stoic facade. "I'm risking everything," she said, her voice low, and hands weaving a rune that cloaked their meeting in a shimmering veil, hiding them from Shadowfang scouts. "I hid the curse to protect you, Sorenya, but your love might be the key to breaking it." Her thoughts were a labyrinth, guilt for her secrecy in the stronghold, hope that their bond could heal centuries of pain, fear of the traitor she suspected within. Sorenya's heart twisted, her thoughts on Vespera's cryptic warnings, the hint of a traitor fueling the feud. "Who's betraying us?" Sorenya demanded, her runes flaring, their glow casting sharp shadows. Vespera's gaze darkened, her silence heavy, her hands trembling as she tightened the cloaking rune. "Trust only your bond," she said, her voice barely a whisper, retreating into the mist, leaving Sorenya and Garrick to face the escalating danger.
Korath's attacks grew bolder, his Shadowfang warriors striking Blood Moon outposts with ruthless precision, their claws leaving trails of blood and chaos across Moonspire's borders. In a moonlit clearing, Sorenya and Garrick fought side by side, their movements a dance of instinct and bond. Sorenya's runes flared brighter than ever, weaving healing spells mid-battle, mending a Blood Moon warrior's torn flank. Her gray wolf form swifter, amplified by the mate bond and Aeloria's presence. Garrick's black wolf form was a tempest, his claws tearing through a Shadowfang attacker, his thoughts on Sorenya, her strength, their shared scar, the curse's visions creeping closer. A Shadowfang warrior lunged, claws aimed at Sorenya's throat, but her runes snapped into a shield, deflecting the blow, saving an injured ally. Garrick roared, his fangs sinking into the attacker, ending the threat, his eyes meeting hers, a silent vow of protection. Her thoughts churned, Aeloria's quiet pulse within her, their love, the curse's feral whispers, wolves turning on kin, their eyes wild with madness, haunting her dreams. In a quiet moment, sheltered by a cave's damp shadows, Sorenya revealed her pregnancy, her voice trembling as she pressed Garrick's hand to her abdomen. "Her name's Aeloria," she whispered, her emerald eyes searching his, fear and hope warring within her. Garrick's thoughts stilled, then surged. Sorenya's love, their child, a future worth every sacrifice. "Our daughter," he said, his voice breaking, pulling her close, his lips claiming hers in a kiss that burned through the curse's chill. The bond flared brighter, their thoughts merging, memories of their childhood marking, their vows to defy their clans, the hope Aeloria represented. "She's our light," Garrick said, his hand resting on her abdomen, his storm blue eyes fierce with resolve. Sorenya's heart pounded, her thoughts on their child, their love, the curse's traitor shadow looming closer, the curse's visions, feral howls, burning skies, growing more vivid. Seeking allies, they ventured to Duskfang territory, a neutral clan nestled in Moonspire's mist-filled valleys, their camp a sprawl of tents and rune-carved stones under Kale's leadership. His warriors watched warily, their braided leader assessing Sorenya and Garrick with calm but piercing eyes, his presence a steady anchor amidst the tension. "Your bond risks everything," Kale said, his voice measured, his thoughts weighing the feud's cost against the curse's threat. "Duskfang seeks peace, but your love stirs chaos."
Sorenya stepped forward, her runes glowing softly, her voice firm despite the exhaustion tugging at her. "We're fighting for all clans, Kale, to end this curse before it consumes us." Garrick stood beside her, his presence commanding, his thoughts resolute. Sorenya's courage, their child, their shared dream of a united future. "Join us or watch Moonspire burn," he said, his voice a challenge, his hand brushing Sorenya's, their bond a pulse of strength. Duskfang's warriors murmured, some nodding in tentative support, others dissenting, their eyes flickering with doubt, the curse's visions creeping into their minds. Draven stepped forward, his loyalty solidifying despite his earlier doubts. He said, "They're our best chance," his voice carrying over the murmurs, his thoughts on Garrick's leadership, Sorenya's power, the tome's revelation of the curse's origin. The air grew heavy, the camp's runes flickering as a Shadowfang horn blared, signaling another raid. Korath's forces crashed through the valley, his beast form towering, his obsidian eyes glinting with unrelenting rage. "Your love ends here," he roared, his claws slashing through Duskfang ranks, blood spraying across the rune-carved stones. Sorenya's runes flared, weaving a shield that saved a Duskfang warrior, her gray wolf form diving into the fray, her thoughts on Aeloria, protecting her, protecting Garrick. Garrick fought beside her, his claws a blur, his thoughts on their family, their defiance against the curse. Draven and Kale rallied their warriors, but dissenters among Duskfang faltered, their eyes wild with the curse's influence, their howls tinged with madness. Mira, hidden among the Shadowfang ranks, struck with precision, her amber eyes glinting as she targeted Sorenya, her claws grazing her shoulder, drawing blood. Sorenya's runes flared, healing the wound, but her thoughts snagged. Mira's betrayal, Vespera's warning, the traitor's shadow now clear. Garrick roared, driving Mira back, his fangs snapping, but the raid's ferocity overwhelmed them, the air thick with the scent of blood and lunar magic. The skirmish ended with Korath retreating, his parting glare a promise of vengeance, his voice a low growl, "Your child will not save you." Sorenya's heart froze, her thoughts on Aeloria. How did he know? Her bond with Garrick was the only anchor against the fear. The Duskfang alliance held, fragile, but intact, their bond a beacon amidst the chaos. As they parted, Sorenya and Garrick stood in the valley's shadows, their hands entwined, their scars pulsing. "We'll protect her," Garrick said, his voice steady, his thoughts on their daughter, their love, the fight ahead. Sorenya nodded, her thoughts clinging to him, his vow, their child, the curse's growing threat. Garrick headed back to Bloodmoon, his scar burning, his resolve unshaken. They'd face the curse together, no matter the cost. Sorenya returned to Shadowfang, her hand resting on her abdomen, Aeloria's presence a quiet pulse, her thoughts a whirl of love and fear. The wilds fell silent, the moon obscured by clouds, the curse's feral whispers echoing louder, a chilling portent of the trials to come.
The undercity of Moonspire sprawled beneath the wilds like a forgotten labyrinth, its crumbling stone tunnels lit by flickering torchlight that cast wavering shadows across walls etched with faded lunar runes. The air was thick with the scent of damp earth, mildew, and a faint hum of ancient magic, the silence broken only by the steady drip of water and the distant, eerie howl seeping through the earth above. A chilling reminder of the feral chaos threatening the Shadowfang and Bloodmoon clans. Sorenya Draith moved with cautious precision through the narrow corridors, her raven hair tangled and matted with sweat from their desperate flight from the Duskfang camp, clinging to her pale, sweat-slicked skin like a veil of grief. Her emerald eyes, flecked with gold from her werewolf shifts, scanned the darkness with fierce intensity, every shadow a potential harbinger of Korath's Shadowfang scouts. Her crescent scar, a mark from the childhood ritual binding her to Garrick Rhowan, burned with a searing heat against her wrist, the mate bond of fire coursing through her veins, both a comfort and a torment as the ancient curse forbidding their cross-clan love tightened its grip. Her thoughts were a roiling tempest, Garrick's fierce vow to protect her in the valley, the surge of their soul-binding ritual in the cave, the quiet pulse of Aeloria, their unborn child, a secret that anchored her hope but deepened her dread with every heartbeat. As a Shadowfang werewolf, her powers were formidable, swift shifts into a lithe gray wolf, healing runes that glowed with lunar light, capable of knitting flesh in moments. But Aeloria's presence amplified them to a volatile edge, her runes flaring erratically, her claws flickering unbidden at her fingertips, her senses so acute that she could hear the skitter of a rat in a distant tunnel or the faint rustle of leaves above ground. Her pregnancy complications, dizzy spells, sharp pains in her core, and waves of weakness grew more severe with each step, threatening to unravel her strength, her resolve fueled by the love that burned for Garrick and their child, a fire that refused to be extinguished. Garrick Rhowan moved beside her, his broad frame clad in battle-worn leather, the scars of recent ambushes etched deep into the hide, a testament to the relentless violence that had pursued them. His storm-blue eyes scanned the tunnel's shadows with fierce vigilance, every muscle taut, his crescent scar pulsing in sync with Sorenya's, their mate bond a lifeline that burned through the curse's chilling grip. His thoughts churned, Sorenya's courage in the raid, their desperate kiss in the cave, the Blood Moon Elder's demands to abandon her for a clan-approved mate. "We're safe here, for now," he said, his voice low but resolute, his hand brushing hers, their bond flaring like a spark in the dark. "Vespera's tome is our only lead to breaking the curse." Sorenya's heart pounded, her thoughts on Aeloria, their daughter, their hope, the curse's visions of feral wolves tearing kin apart growing sharper, their snarls echoing in her dreams. "We find it, then we end this," she whispered, her voice trembling but fierce, her runes glowing softly, casting faint shadows on the tunnel walls. Vespera led the way through the labyrinth, her silver-streaked hair glinting in the torchlight, her robes whispering with lunar runes that shimmered faintly. Her steps were measured but heavy with purpose, her thoughts a labyrinth, guilt for hiding the curse during their childhood, hope that the tome could reveal its origins, fear of the traitor she'd sensed in the Duskfang Council. "The tome lies in the old archive," she said, her voice steady but strained, her hands weaving a cloaking rune to shield them from scouts. "It tells of lovers like you, cursed for defying the clans." Sorenya's thoughts snagged, Vespera's confession in the valley, admitting her role in their marking. "You hid this from us," she said, her voice sharp, her runes flaring, casting jagged light. Vespera's emerald eyes clouded with pain, her thoughts heavy with regret. "I thought I could protect you," she said, her hands trembling as she tightened the rune. "I failed you." Garrick's thoughts were fierce, Vespera's motives, the tome's promise, Sorenya's safety. "Move faster," he growled, his eyes scanning the shadows. Draven followed, his hazel eyes clouded with doubt, his lean frame taut from Blood Moon's unrest, his armor scarred from skirmishes. His thoughts were tangled, loyalty to Garrick warring with the clan's demands, the curse's weight a wound. "Blood Moon's fracturing," he muttered, his gaze suspicious on Sorenya. "This better work." Garrick's jaw tightened, his thoughts fierce. Draven's doubt, Sorenya's safety. "It's for all of us," he said, his tone unyielding, squeezing Sorenya's hand. The archive was a cavernous chamber, its walls lined with rune-etched shelves, the air thick with ancient parchment and lunar magic. A leather-bound tome on a stone pedestal glowed with runes, pulsing like a heartbeat. Sorenya touched it, her runes flaring, visions flooding her mind. Betrayed lovers, their bond cursed by an elder, mirroring her and Garrick's defiance. "It's our story," she whispered, her thoughts on Aeloria, the curse's feral consequences clear. Garrick steadied her, his thoughts fierce, their love, their child, breaking the cycle. Vespera's voice was urgent. "The shrine can channel your bond to weaken it." Her thoughts burned. Redemption, the traitor's shadow. Mira sabotage surfaced subtly, her lies spreading through Blood Moon, inciting unrest. A Duskfang scout burst in, breathless. "Blood Moon outposts are under attack. Shadowfang warriors turning feral. Mira's doing." Draven's thoughts burned. Mira's treachery, her amber eyes a betrayal. "She's breaking us," he growled, his loyalty wavering. Sorenya's heart sank, her thoughts on Mira's smirk. Vespera's worrying's real. Garrick's resolve hardened. "We moved to the shrine." Korath's scouts breached the undercity, their claws slashing through tunnels, forcing a desperate escape. Sorenya's runes shielded them, but each burst drained her. Aeloria's presence amplifying her power, her body trembling. Garrick's wolf form tore through attackers, his thoughts on Sorenya. Draven fought beside him, his loyalty holding, his hazel eyes fierce. Vespera's runes faltered, her thoughts on redemption. The assault scattered the group, the shrine's runes flickering, Sorenya collapsing, her vision darkening, her thoughts on Aeloria and Garrick. Garrick caught her, his voice desperate. "Stay with me." The shrine fell silent, the air heavy with blood and magic, their bond of fire against the darkness, the path ahead fraught with peril.
The wilds of Moonspire stretched into an endless labyrinth of twisted oaks and jagged cliffs, their gnarled branches clawing at a gibbous moon that cast an eerie silver glow through the heavy mist. The air thrummed with ancient lunar energy, charged with a restless hum that seemed to vibrate in the bones of the earth, where rune-covered stones lay half-buried, their sigils pulsing faintly like dying embers. Sorenya Draith moved through the undergrowth with the stealth of a predator, her raven hair tangled and damp from the clinging fog, her emerald eyes scanning the darkness for signs of pursuit, every rustle sharpening her senses to a razor's edge. Her crescent scar, a mark from the childhood ritual binding her to Garrick Rhowan, burned with a searing intensity, the mate bond of fire coursing through her veins, urging her toward the lunar shrine Vespera had revealed in the Duskfang camp at their last hope to weaken the curse. Her thoughts were a tempest, Garrick's fierce vow in the valley, the surge of their soul-binding ritual, the quiet pulse of Aeloria, their unborn child, a secret that anchored her hope but deepened her dread with every step. As a Shadowfang werewolf, her powers were formidable, swift shifts into a lithe gray wolf, healing runes that glowed with lunar light, capable of knitting flesh in moments. But Aeloria's presence amplified them to a volatile, almost uncontrollable edge, her runes flaring erratically, her claws flickering unbidden at her fingertips, her senses so acute she could hear the distant heartbeat of a hare hidden in the underbrush miles away. Her pregnancy complications, dizzy spells, sudden weakness, and searing pain that radiated from her core threatened to unravel her strength. Each step toward the shrine a battle against her own body, her resolve tested by the weight of their forbidden love. Garrick Rhowan moved beside her, his broad frame clad in battle-worn leather, the scars of recent ambushes etched deep into the hide, a testament to the relentless violence that dogged their path. His storm-blue eyes scanned the wilds with fierce vigilance, every muscle taut, his crescent scar pulsing in sync with hers, their mate bond a lifeline that burned through the curse's chilling grip, anchoring him against the chaos threatening to engulf them. His thoughts churned, Sorenya's courage during the Duskfang raid, their desperate kiss in the cave, the Blood Moon Elder's unyielding demands to abandon her for a clan-approved mate to secure their lineage. "We're close," he said, his voice low but steady, his hand brushing hers, their bond flaring like a spark in the dark, a warmth that steadied them both. "The shrine's power will give us a chance to end this." Sorenya's heart pounded, her thoughts on Aeloria, their daughter, their hope, the curse's visions of feral wolves tearing kin apart, growing sharper, more vivid with each passing night, their snarls echoing in her dreams. "We have to believe it," she whispered, her voice trembling but resolute, her runes glowing softly, casting faint flickering shadows on the rune-carved stones they passed, their light a fragile promise against the darkness. Vespera led the way, her silver-streaked hair glinting in the moonlight, her robes whispering with lunar runes that shimmered faintly, their glow a stark contrast to the heavy mist that cloaked the wilds. Her presence was a fragile thread of redemption after her betrayal in the Duskfang Council, her steps measured but burdened with purpose. Her thoughts were a labyrinth, guilt for hiding the curse during their childhood, hope that the shrine's ancient magic could weaken its hold, fear of the traitor she'd warned of in the grove, whose actions now threatened to unravel everything. "The shrine's runes are older than our clans," she said, her voice steady but heavy with the weight of her past failures, her hands weaving a cloaking rune that shimmered like a veil, shielding their small group from Shadowfang scouts lurking in the wilds. "They amplify lunar magic, but the curse's power is unpredictable, twisted by betrayal." Sorenya's thoughts snagged. Vespera's confession in the valley, her role in their childhood marking, now risking her life to guide them to the shrine. Why should we trust you? Her runes flared briefly, casting jagged shadows across the path, her voice sharp with the sting of lingering betrayal. Vespera's gaze softened, her emerald eyes, so like Sorenya's, clouded with maternal pain, her thoughts heavy with regret for the years of secrecy. "Because I failed you once, daughter," she said, her voice barely above a whisper, her hands trembling as she tightened the cloaking rune, its light pulsing in time with the shrine's distant glow. "The traitor's chaos grows, and the shrine is our last hope to stem it." Garrick's thoughts churned, Vespera's motives, the shrine's promise, the desperate need to protect Sorenya and Aeloria at all costs. "Lead on," he said, his voice a low growl, his storm blue eyes narrowing as he scanned the shadows for threats. Draven followed closely, his hazel eyes clouded with doubt, his lean frame taut from the strain of Blood Moon's fracturing loyalty, his leather armor scarred from recent skirmishes, a testament to the relentless violence that dogged their path. His thoughts were a tangled knot, unwavering loyalty to Garrick warring with the clan's mounting demands to abandon this cursed bond. The curse's origin revealed in the wilds, a weight they carried like a wound that refused to heal. "This path is madness," he muttered, his voice low and rough, his gaze flicking to Sorenya with growing suspicion, her Shadowfang heritage a constant thorn in his trust. Blood Moon's on the brink of revolt, and Shadowfangs closing in. We're walking into a trap. Garrick's jaw tightened, his thoughts fierce. Draven's doubt cut deeper than any claw, but Sorenya is his mate, their bond an unyielding truth that no clan could break. "We're fighting for all clans, Draven," he said, his tone unyielding, his hand squeezing Sorenya's, her warmth grounding him against the rising tension. "Stay with us, or go back to Blood Moon's lies." Draven hesitated, his thoughts racing, the tone's tale of betrayed lovers from centuries past, their defiance mirroring Sorenya and Garrick's, the curse's feral consequences a warning he couldn't ignore. He nodded, his loyalty faltering but holding, his presence a quiet anchor amidst the group's mounting unease, his hazel eyes scanning the wilds for signs of betrayal. The path to the lunar shrine grew treacherous, the terrain shifting from tangled undergrowth to jagged cliffs, the air growing heavier with each step, the curse's influence seeping into their minds like a creeping poison. Visions flickered at the edges of Sorenya's thoughts, feral wolves with glowing eyes, tearing at kin, their howls a cacophony of madness that echoed in her dreams. Her heart pounded, her thoughts clinging to Aeloria, her child, their hope, the curse's visions haunting her with increasing clarity, threatening to unravel her resolve. Garrick sensed her distress, his hand tightening on hers, his thoughts a storm of love and fear, her strength in the Duskfang raid, their soul-binding rituals surge, the quiet pulse of their daughter. "We're almost there," he whispered, his voice a steady anchor, his storm-blue eyes locking onto hers, a silent vow to protect her. Sorenya nodded, her runes flickering, her body trembling as a wave of nausea hit, Aeloria's presence amplifying her powers but draining her life force, her vision blurring momentarily. She steadied herself against a rune-carved stone, its glow pulsing in time with her scar, her thoughts a desperate plea. Hold on, for Garrick, for Aeloria.
The lunar shrine loomed ahead, a circle of towering stones etched with ancient runes that glowed with an ethereal silver light under the gibbous moon, their power radiating like a heartbeat through the clearing. The air was thick with lunar energy, the ground vibrating beneath their feet, the stone sigils flaring as Sorenya and Garrick approached. Vespera guided them to the shrine's center, her runes flaring brighter, amplifying the stone's power, her thoughts heavy with redemption. She had failed Sorenya in the past, but this was her chance to make amends. "Your bond must channel the shrine's magic," she said, her voice urgent, her hands weaving a lattice of light that connected the stones, the air humming with raw power. "It could weaken the curse, but it will test you both." Sorenya's heart pounded, her thoughts on Aeloria, their daughter, their hope, the curse's visions now a tangible threat. Garrick knelt beside her, their hands entwined, their scars pulsing, the meat bond surging as they pressed their palms to the central stone, its runes flaring with blinding intensity. The shrine's power washed over them, strengthening their bond, a surge of lunar light weaving their souls tighter, their thoughts merging, memories of childhood promises under starlit oaks, stolen kisses in the undercity, Aeloria's quiet pulse within Sorenya. The ritual's power was intoxicating, Sorenya's runes glowing with unprecedented brilliance, healing a minor wound on Garrick's arm instantly, but the surge drained her, her vision darkening, her body trembling as she clung to him. Her thoughts were a maelstrom, the ritual's cost, their bond, the traitor's shadow looming closer. The shrine's power triggered feral outbursts among the group, Draven's eyes flickering with wildness, his claws extending as he snarled, the curse's influence seeping into his mind. Vespera's runes stabilized him, her voice sharp. "Fight it, Draven!" His thoughts were a storm, loyalty to Garrick, Blood Moon's demands, the curse's visions of feral chaos. He shook off the madness, his hazel eyes clearing, but the shrine's power amplified the curse's reach, the air thick with the scent of blood and fear. Sorenya's thoughts clung to Aeloria, her child, their love, the curse's chaos threatening to consume them. Garrick's hand tightened on hers, his thoughts fierce, their daughter, their bond, the shrine's promise. "We're stronger than this," he said, his voice steady, his storm blue eyes locking onto hers, a beacon against the darkness. Mira's sabotage struck with devastating precision, her betrayal deepening the clan rifts that threatened to tear Moonspire apart. Reports reached the shrine through a Duskfang scout. Blood Moon outposts had been burned, Shadowfang warriors turning feral, incited by Mira's whispered lies, her amber eyes glinting in the shadows as she sowed chaos. Draven's thoughts burned, Mira's treachery in the valley, her role in the Duskfang raid, now a direct threat to their mission. "She's unraveling everything," he growled, his claws flickering, his loyalty tested by the weight of Blood Moon's unrest. Sorenya's heart sank, her thoughts on Mira's smirk in the grove, Vespera's warnings now a chilling reality, the traitor's actions fracturing our fragile alliance. Garrick's thoughts were fierce, Mira's treachery, their bond, the desperate need to protect Sorenya and Aeloria. "We end her chaos at the shrine," he said, his voice steady, his storm blue eyes burning with resolve. Korath's pursuit culminated in a brutal assault, his Shadowfang warriors crashing through the wilds like a tidal wave, their claws slashing through the shrine's outer defenses, blood spraying across the rune-carved stones. Korath's beast form towered over the clearing, his obsidian eyes glinting with unrelenting rage, his fur rippling with dark, unnatural energy amplified by the curse's power. "Your love dies here," he roared, his voice shaking the stones, his claws like jagged obsidian blades slashing toward Garrick. Sorenya's runes flared, weaving a shield of lunar light that deflected the blow, saving Garrick, but each rune drained her further, Aeloria's presence amplifying her power to a dangerous intensity, her body trembling on the edge of collapse. Garrick shifted, his black wolf form a blur of primal fury, his claws tearing through Shadowfang attackers, his thoughts on Sorenya, her strength, their child, the curse's chaos spreading like wildfire. Korath's claws raked Garrick's flank, blood pouring across the stones, and Sorenya screamed, her runes exploding in a wave of lunar fire that scorched the clearing, driving Korath back but pushing her to the brink, her vision darkening, her breath ragged. Draven fought beside them, his loyalty solidified despite his doubts, his claws slashing through attackers, his thoughts on the tome's warning, the betrayed lovers whose defiance led to chaos, a fate they must avoid. Vespera's runes stabilized the shrine, her eyes heavy with guilt, her thoughts on redemption, her aid a fragile thread against the curse's wrath. The assault scattered the shrine's defenses, runes flickering, warriors turning feral under the curse's influence, their howls echoing through the wilds. Sorenya knelt beside Garrick, her runes flickering, healing his wounds slowly, each pulse draining her life force. Her thoughts were a maelstrom, Garrick's pain, Aeloria's safety, Mira's betrayal, the curse's chaos consuming everything. Korath retreated, his forces battered, his parting glare a chilling promise. "Your child's light will not save you." Sorenya's heart froze, her thoughts racing. How did he know about Aeloria? her bond with Garrick her only anchor against the fear. The shrine fell silent, the runes dimming, the air heavy with the scent of blood and lunar magic. Sorenya and Garrick clung to each other, their hands entwined, their scars pulsing, their bond a beacon amidst the chaos. "We'll protect her," he said, his voice steady, his thoughts on their daughter, their love, the shrine's fragile promise. Sorenya nodded, her thoughts clinging to him, his vow, their child, the curse's growing threat, the traitor's shadow lengthening. Vespera retreated, her runes fading, her thoughts heavy with the cost of her redemption, her aid a desperate gamble. Draven stood watch, his loyalty resolute, his thoughts on the tome's warning, the need to end this cycle of betrayal. The wilds grew still, the gibbous moon obscured by clouds, the curse's feral whispers echoing louder, a chilling portent of the trials to come. Their love a fire, burning against the darkness, their resolve hardened for the battles ahead.
The lunar shrine stood as a timeless sentinel in the heart of Moonspire's wilds, a sacred circle of towering monoliths carved from the bones of the earth, their surfaces etched with ancient runes that glowed with an ethereal silver light under the full moon's watchful gaze. The air was thick with the scent of damp moss and iron-rich blood, the ground beneath vibrating with the shrine's latent power, as if the very heart of the moon beat within its stones. The mist clung to the monoliths like a shroud, swirling in eddies that carried whispers of forgotten rituals, the eclipse on the horizon casting a crimson tint over the clearing, a harbinger of the curse's peak. The curse, an ancient prohibition on cross-clan bonds, threatened to unravel the Shadowfang and Blood Moon clans into feral madness, its reality a bitter truth Sorenya Draith and Garrick Rhowan had only uncovered in adulthood, having believed their childhood separation was merely parental opposition. Now it loomed like a storm, its feral consequences manifesting in visions of wolves turning on kin, their eyes wild with uncontrollable rage. Sorenya Draith lay on a stone altar at the shrine's center, her body racked by labor pains that came in waves, each one more intense than the last, her emerald eyes flickering with gold as uncontrollable werewolf shifts surged through her. Claws sprouted from her fingertips, sharp and glinting in the moonlight, then retracted with a painful snap, leaving her gasping for breath. Fangs flashed in her mouth, then vanished, each surge sapping her strength, her riven hair matted with sweat and clinging to her pale skin like a dark veil. Her crescent scar, a mark from the childhood ritual binding her to Garrick Rhowan, burned like a brand against her wrist, the mate bond a fire coursing through her veins, a beacon urging her to hold fast against the curse's chilling grip. Her thoughts were a maelstrom of love, fear, and defiance. Garrick's desperate vow in the valley, the surge of their soul-binding ritual in the cave, the quiet pulse of Aeloria, their unborn child, a secret shared but now a source of terror as her pregnancy complications worsened. As a Shadowfang werewolf, her powers were formidable, swift shifts into a lithe gray wolf, healing runes that glowed with lunar light, capable of knitting flesh in moments. But Aeloria's presence amplified them to a volatile edge, her runes flaring erratically, her senses so acute she could hear the distant heartbeat of a hare hidden in the underbrush miles away, each sound a potential threat from Korath's forces. Her pregnancy complications, dizzy spells, searing pain radiating from her core, and a growing weakness that threatened collapse pushed her to the brink, each contraction a battle against her own body, her resolve fueled by the love that burned for Garrick and Aeloria. Garrick Rhowan stood at the shrine's edge, his broad frame taut in his black wolf form, his storm-blue eyes blazing with fierce protectiveness, every muscle coiled for the fight. His crescent scar pulsed in sync with Sorenya's, their mate bond a lifeline that burned through the curse's chilling grip, anchoring him against the chaos threatening to engulf them. His thoughts churned, Sorenya's courage in the Duskfang raid, their desperate kiss in the cave, the Blood Moon elders' unyielding demands to abandon her for a clan-approved mate to secure their lineage. His black fur rippled, his claws digging into the earth as he scanned the perimeter, the air thick with the scent of impending battle. Korath, Shadowfang's alpha, loomed across the clearing, his obsidian eyes glinting with malice, his monstrous beast form, claws like jagged obsidian, fur rippling with dark, unnatural energy, swollen by centuries of clan hatred. Korath's thoughts were a vortex of rage, the curse's promise of power, his ambition to crush Blood Moon, Sorenya's defiance a personal affront. "Your blood ends tonight, Blood Moon," Korath snarled, his voice a guttural roar that shook the shrine's stones, sending cracks spiderwebbing across the ancient monoliths. Kale, the neutral Duskfang alpha, rallied his warriors against Korath's forces, his braided hair swaying as he barked orders, his calm demeanor a stark contrast to the chaos. His thoughts were calculated, the curse's madness spreading, the need to unite or fall. Draven, Garrick's beta, fought beside Kale, his hazel eyes fierce, his wolf form a blur of claws and fangs, his thoughts a tangle of loyalty to Garrick and fear for their clan. The air was thick with the scent of blood and sweat, the ground churned to mud by stamping paws and slashing claws, the eclipse's crimson light painting the scene in shades of red, a visual echo of the curse's feral madness. Shadowfang warriors, their eyes glinting with curse-induced rage, pressed the attack, their howls a cacophony that drowned the shrine's hum. Sorenya's labor intensified, her body convulsing as contractions came in relentless waves, her screams piercing the night, her runes flaring erratically, casting a fragile shield of lunar light around the altar. Her thoughts raced, memories of childhood with Garrick, their secret promises under starlit canopies, their naive belief that parental rivalries were their only enemy. The curse, revealed in adulthood, had shattered that illusion, its threat of feral madness now palpable in the warrior's wild eyes. She clutched the altar's edge, her voice a strained whisper. "Garrick, I need you." Garrick's head snapped toward her, his heart twisting. Her pain seared through their soul-binding ritual, forged in the valleys, a burning tether that made every wound he took feel like hers. "Stay with me, Sorenya," he growled, human words breaking through his wolf form, his voice raw with desperation, his black fur rippling as he turned back to the fight.
Garrick lunged at Korath, claws slashing through the air, fangs bared in a snarl that echoed his defiance, his black wolf form a tempest of fury. The shrine quaked, stones cracking as Korath's beastly form met him, their clash a whirlwind of primal rage, fur flying, blood spraying across the rune-etched monoliths. Garrick's claws raked Korath's flank, drawing dark blood that sizzled on the ground. But Korath's massive paw slammed him against a pillar, the impact sending cracks spiderwebbing through the stone, blood spraying from Garrick's side. Garrick's thoughts churned. Sorenya's laughter in their youth, their hands entwined during their secret marking, the dreams they'd woven of a life unbound by clan law. He fought for her, for Aeloria, for a future free of the curse's shadow. Korath's claws tore into his shoulder, and Garrick staggered, his growl unwavering, his eyes locked on Sorenya's trembling form, his love a fire that burned hotter than the pain. Draven, bloodied and faltering, dragged himself to Sorenya's side, his breath ragged, his wolf form reverting to human as he collapsed beside her. "Your pack, Sorenya," he rasped, his loyalty unshaken despite the curse's chaos, his hazel eyes fierce even as blood seeped from his wounds. Mira, the Blood Moon traitor, emerged from the fray, her amber eyes glinting with malice, her claws aimed at Sorenya's vulnerable form, her thoughts a venomous whirl. Her betrayal complete, her ambition to fuel the feud's fire now targeting the mate bond's heart. Draven roared, tackling Mira, his claws sinking into her side as she struck back, her blade-like nails slashing his chest, but he held fast, his sacrifice buying Sorenya precious moments. Mira's claws raked his side, but Draven's fangs snapped, ending her threat in a spray of blood, his body crumpling as he shielded Sorenya, his blood pooling on the shrine's stones. Sorenya's heart lurched, grief crashing over her as she channeled her runes, their glow surging to shield the altar, her voice breaking. "Draven, no!" Mira's body stilled, her treachery ended, but her actions' chaos lingered, the curse's visions, feral wolves, burning skies, spilling into reality. Vespera, Sorenya's mentor and mother, emerged from the shrine's shadows, her silver-streaked hair glinting in the eclipse's crimson glow, her robes whispering with lunar runes that shimmered faintly, her presence a shock that cut through the battle's din. Her thoughts were a labyrinth, guilt for her secrecy in the Duskfang Council,
hope that the shrine's power could weaken the curse, fear of the traitor whose actions now threatened to unravel everything. I hid the curse too long, Vespera whispered, kneeling beside Sorenya, her hands weaving protective runes that bolstered the altar's shield, their combined light pushing back the encroaching Shadowfang warriors. Sorenya, gasping through her contractions, glared through her pain. "You let us suffer!" Vespera's runes flared, her emerald eyes, mirroring Sorenya's, clouded with maternal pain, her thoughts heavy with regret for the years of secrecy. The shrine shook as Korath's roar drowned their words, his beast form tearing through Cal's faltering line, his claws slashing through Duskfang warriors as they turned on each other in feral madness. Sorenya's body convulsed, her labor reaching its peak. Her werewolf shift surged uncontrollably, gold-flecked eyes blazing, claws extending, strength spiking then fading. Her thoughts clung to Garrick, his fierce embrace, their blood oath in the valley, their vow to defy the stars. She pushed, her scream echoing through the shrine, the stones vibrating as if in sympathy, and birthed Aeloria, a newborn with glowing lunar eyes, her tiny form a beacon of hope amidst the chaos. Aeolioria's piercing cry reverberated, the shrine's runes flaring, the curse weakening as her light washed over the battlefield, the feral madness in the warriors' eyes flickering, their howls softening. Sorenya cradled Aeloria, her strength ebbing, her voice a breathless gasp. "She's here, Garrick." Her runes flared brighter, shielding them, but her eyes locked on Garrick, fear spiking, his wounds deepened, his movements slowing, blood pooling around him. Korath laughed, a chilling sound that cut through the shrine's hum, his claws raking Garrick's flank, blood pooling on the cracked stones. "Your heir's light fades with you," Korath taunted, his beast form towering, fueled by the curse's lingering power, his obsidian eyes glinting with triumph. Garrick staggered, his wolf form faltering, reverting to human as blood streamed from his wounds. His storm blue eyes met Sorenya's, a silent vow passing between them, love eternal, their child's future secured. "I love you," he rasped, his voice breaking, memories flooding, running through Moonspire's forests, their secret marking under starlight, their dreams of a life together. He summoned his last strength, shifting back, his claws striking Korath's chest, drawing a torrent of dark blood that sizzled on the stones. Korath roared, his massive paws slamming Garrick to the ground, claws piercing his heart. Garrick's body stilled, his eyes dimming, the mate bond snapping like a severed thread, leaving Sorenya's soul raw, a void that swallowed her whole. Sorenya's scream ripped through the shrine, a primal sound that shook the monoliths, her werewolf form surging, gold-flecked eyes blazing, claws extending, as Aeloria's light amplified her power. Her grief ignited a vengeful force, runes exploding in a wave of lunar fire, scorching Korath's forces, their howls turning to yelps as they burned. Her thoughts were a maelstrom. Garrick's laughter, his touch, now gone, the curse's cruelty laid bare, her vengeance a fire that consumed everything. "You took him," she howled, her voice shattering the air, her power cursing both clans, Shadowfang and Blood Moon warriors faltering, their eyes turning wild, feral madness spreading as wolves turned on kin, their howls a cacophony of self-destruction. Korath staggered, his beast form weakening, blood dripping from his wounds, his obsidian eyes widening with fear as Sorenya's runes blinded him, her claws slashing from afar. The shrine's light flared, the stones cracking as her power surged, Aeolioria's cry joining her mother's scream, the curse's visions of feral chaos now reality. Cal pulled back, his warriors reeling, their howls tinged with desperation as they fought the curse's madness within themselves. Vespera knelt beside Sorenya, her runes stabilizing Aeolioria's light, her voice soft. "You can end this, daughter." Sorenya's tears fell on Garrick's body, her thoughts a whirl of grief and rage. His promises, their stolen moments, Aeloria now their only legacy. "We were supposed to win," she whispered, her heart breaking, her vengeful power spiraling, the curse's chaos consuming the clans. The shrine's light faded, the eclipse darkening, as Sorenya's grief fueled her determination to end the curse, setting the stage for a final reckoning.
The ruins of Moonspire sprawled across a desolate valley, a scarred expanse where shattered monoliths and charred oaks stood as silent witnesses to the chaos that had torn the werewolf clans asunder. The air was thick with the acrid scent of ash and blood, the ground littered with rune-carved stones that flickered faintly, their lunar magic dimmed by the relentless grip of the ancient curse that forbade cross-clan bonds. Born centuries ago from a betrayed alliance between Shadowfang and Blood Moon, lovers, the curse had unleashed feral madness.
its aftermath now a cacophony of haunted howls and scattered survivors. The waning crescent moon hung low, its silver light barely piercing the heavy mist, casting ghostly shadows across the rubble, each one a reminder of the battles fought in lives lost. Sorenya Draith knelt in the shadow of a crumbling pillar, once part of the lunar shrine where Garrick Rhowan fell, her raven hair tangled and streaked with ash, clinging to her pale, sweat-slicked skin like a mourning veil. Her emerald eyes, flecked with gold from her werewolf shifts, burned with a fierce, unyielding determination, though exhaustion clawed at her core, a weight that deepened with each labored breath. Her crescent scar, a mark from the childhood ritual binding her to Garrick, pulsed with a faint, aching heat, the mate bond a ghostly echo now, its fire dimmed since Garrick's death under Korath's claws in the shrine's crimson eclipse. Her thoughts were a tempest of grief and resolve. Garrick's final vow, "I love you," his storm-blue eyes dimming, the piercing cry of Aeloria, their newborn daughter, whose birth had weakened the curse but left it unbroken. As a Shadowfang werewolf, her powers were formidable. Swift shifts into a lithe gray wolf, healing runes that glowed with lunar light, capable of knitting flesh in moments. But Aeloria's presence, cradled in her arms, amplified them to a volatile edge, her runes flaring erratically, her claws flickering unbidden at her fingertips, her senses so acute she could hear the distant rustle of a leaf falling miles away, each sound a potential threat in the ruined wilds. Her body, still weakened from labor and loss, trembled with the aftershocks of Aeloria's birth, each moment a battle to protect her daughter, her resolve fueled by the love that burned for Garrick's memory and Aeloria's future. Aeloria, barely a week old, lay swaddled in a tattered cloak, her tiny form radiating a faint lunar glow that pulsed like a heartbeat, her eyes, emerald like her mother's, flecked with silver, blinking up at Sorenya with his uncanny awareness that belied her infancy. Her thoughts, though infantile, pulsed through the remnants of the mate bond, a quiet hum of trust and light that anchored Sorenya against the despair threatening to swallow her whole. The curse's feral visions, wolves tearing at kin, their eyes wild with madness, still haunted her dreams, their echoes lingering in the distant howls that pierced the night, a chilling reminder of the clan's fractured state. Sorenya's fingers brushed Aeloria's cheek, her touch trembling, her voice a broken whisper. "You're our hope, little one." Her thoughts churned. Garrick's laughter in their childhood, their hands entwined during their secret marking under starlit oaks, their naive dreams of a life unbound by clan law, shattered by the curse's revelation in adulthood. She clutched Aeloria closer, her runes glowing faintly, casting a protective shield around them, the light flickering as her strength waned, her grief a heavy mantle she bore for her daughter's sake. The wind carried the scent of blood, a reminder of the shrine's collapse, Draven's sacrifice, and Mira's betrayal, each loss a wound that bled anew in her heart. Kale, the Duskfang alpha, emerged from the mist, his braided hair swaying in the chill breeze, his calm eyes scanning the ruins with a measured intensity, his leather armor scarred from the battles that had followed the shrine's fall. His thoughts were a calculated balance, the curse's madness spreading like wildfire, the desperate need to unite the fractured clans or watch Moonspire fall to ruin. "Sorenya," he said, his voice steady but heavy with the weight of their losses. "The clans are tearing themselves apart. Shadowfang and Blood Moon warriors turn feral, but Duskfang holds, for now." He knelt beside her, his presence a quiet anchor amidst the desolation, his thoughts on the shrine's collapse, Garrick's death and Aeloria's birth, a fleeting light in the chaos. "Your daughter's cry weakened the curse, but it's not enough. We need you to end it." Sorenya's heart twisted, her thoughts racing, Garrick's sacrifice, Draven's death, shielding her, the weight of her daughter's future pressing against her like a stone. "I'll do whatever it takes," she said, her voice firm despite the tremor, her runes flaring briefly, casting jagged shadows across Kale's weathered face. His thoughts shifted, admiration for her resolve, fear of the cost, the traitor's shadow still lingering in the wake of Mira's final betrayal. He placed a hand on her shoulder, his touch steady, his voice low. "You're not alone, Sorenya. Duskfang stands with you." His thoughts lingered on the clan survivors, their eyes flickering with doubt, the curse's influence creeping into their minds like a poison. Vespera approached through the mist, her silver-streaked hair glinting faintly in the moonlight, her robes tattered but still whispering with lunar runes that shimmered like stars against the dark fabric, their glow a stark contrast to the desolate ruins. Her presence was a fragile threat of redemption, her steps slow and deliberate, burdened by the weight of her past failures and the knowledge of what lay ahead. Her thoughts were a labyrinth of guilt for hiding the curse during Sorenya's childhood, hope that her final act could save her daughter, fear of the cost she knew was inevitable. She said, "There's a relic," her voice low and urgent, her hands clutching a leather pouch etched with ancient runes that pulsed faintly, their light mirroring the shrine's lost glow. "It could break the curse, but it demands a life." Sorenya's thoughts snagged. Vespera's confession in the valley, her role in their childhood marking, now offering a final chance at redemption through this relic. "What life?" Sorenya demanded, her voice sharp with lingering mistrust, her runes flaring, casting jagged shadows across the rubble, their light reflecting the pain in her eyes. Vespera's gaze softened, her emerald eyes, mirroring Sorenya's, clouded with maternal pain for the years of secrecy that had kept her from her daughter. She said, "Mine or yours?" her voice breaking and her hands trembling as she opened the pouch, revealing a crescent-shaped relic that pulsed with lunar light, its energy humming in sync with Sorenya's scar, a beacon of hope and dread. Kale's thoughts churned. Vespera's sacrifice, the relic's power, the desperate need to save Moonspire from the curse's madness. "He trusts you, Vespera," he said, his voice steady, his calm eyes narrowing as he scanned the ruins for signs of movement, his hand resting on the hilt of a rune-carved dagger. The ruins grew restless, the air thick with the scent of blood and ash, the curse's feral influence seeping into the minds of the survivors scattered across the valley. In the distance, Shadowfang and Blood Moon remnants clashed, their howls a cacophony of madness, their eyes wild as they turned on each other, the curse's visions, feral wolves tearing at kin, their fur matted with blood, their skies ablaze, spilling into reality with chilling clarity. Sorenya's heart pounded, her thoughts on Aeloria, her daughter, their hope, the visions haunting her dreams with increasing intensity, their snarls echoing in her waking hours. She clutched the relic tightly, its power surging through her, amplifying her runes to a blinding intensity, her claws flickering unbidden, her senses overwhelmed by the distant screams of clashing warriors, each sound a dagger in her heart. Her thoughts raced. Garrick's final words, "I love you," his storm-blue eyes dimming as he fell, the mate bonds snap, a wound that bled anew with every breath, the weight of his absence a void she could not fill. "I can't lose her too," she whispered, her voice trembling, her runes casting a protective shield around Aeloria, the light flickering as her strength waned, her body trembling with the aftershocks of labor and the grief that threatened to consume her. Kyle rallied his Duskfang warriors, their rune-carved armor glinting faintly in the moonlight, their movements disciplined despite the curse's creeping influence, their claws ready, their eyes flickering with doubt but holding firm under his command. "We hold the line," he barked, his voice cutting through the chaos like a blade, his thoughts on uniting the clans, Sorenya's resolve and Aeloria's light as their last hope. His warriors formed a tight perimeter around the ruins, their paws sinking into the churned mud, their breaths visible in the chill air, their thoughts a mix of loyalty and fear. The curse's madness was a shadow that loomed over them all. The air grew heavier, the crescent moon obscured by a sudden bank of clouds, the curse's feral whispers echoing louder, a chilling portent of the final battle that loomed. Sorenya's thoughts clung to Garrick, his fierce embrace in Undercity, their blood oath in the valley, their vow to defy the stars themselves, now reduced to memories that burned like fire in her chest. She stood slowly, Aeloria cradled in one arm, the relic clutched in her other hand, its power burning through her veins, her runes flaring brighter, her body trembling as a wave of pain surged from her core, the aftershocks of labor and grief threatening to break her resolve. Vespera knelt beside her, her hands weaving runes that stabilized the relic's power, their glow merging with the faint light of the shrine's remnants, her voice soft but urgent. "The ritual requires your bond's strength, Sorenya. Aeloria's light, your love for Garrick, It's the key to breaking the curse. Her thoughts were heavy: redemption for her secrecy, the cost of her failure as a mother, the daughter she'd failed to protect through years of hidden truths. Sorenya's eyes burned with tears, her thoughts on Garrick's sacrifice, Draven's death shielding her, Mira's betrayal fueling the chaos that had torn the clans apart. "I'll do it," she said, her voice steady despite the pain that clawed at her, her runes flaring brighter, casting a radiant glow across the ruins, their light reflecting to resolve in her eyes. Vespera's hands trembled, her runes weaving a lattice of light around the relic, the air crackling with raw lunar energy as the ritual began. Sorenya's blood dripped onto the relic, mingling with its glow, her thoughts merging with Aeloria's faint hum, memories of Garrick's laughter in their childhood, their hands entwined under starlit oaks, their desperate kisses in the undercity, the quiet pulse of their daughter, now the only piece of him left. The relic's power surged, amplifying her runes to a blinding intensity, healing a nearby Duskfang warrior's wound instantly as he staggered from a skirmish, but the surge drained her, her vision darkening, her body trembling as she clung to Aeloria, her strength fading with each heartbeat. The curse's feral influence intensified, the survivors' eyes flickering with wildness, their claws extending as they snarled, the visions of feral chaos, wolves tearing at kin, their eyes glowing with madness, spilling into reality with terrifying clarity. Kayal's warriors faltered, some turning on each other, their howls a cacophony of desperation and rage, the curse's influence creeping into their minds like a poison that no rune could purge. Vespera's runes flared brighter, her voice sharp as she shouted over the chaos, "Hold fast!" Her thoughts were a storm: redemption, sacrifice, the desperate need to protect Sorenya and Aeloria. She stepped forward, her runes exploding in a wave of lunar light that shielded the ritual from the encroaching chaos, her body trembling as the effort drained her life force, her silver-streaked hair falling loose, her face pale and drawn. "Finish it, Sorenya," she whispered, her voice breaking, her thoughts on her daughter, the years lost to secrecy, the love she'd never fully expressed. Sorenya's heart twisted, her thoughts on Vespera's redemption, Garrick's death, Aeloria's future, the weight of it all threatening to crush her. She channeled the relic's power, her runes surging, the air crackling with lunar energy as the curse's hold weakened, the feral howls softening, the survivors' eyes clearing, their claws retracting as the madness began to fade. The ritual reached its peak, the relic glowing with blinding intensity, the ruins shaking as if the earth itself wept for the losses endured. Sorenya's body convulsed, her strength ebbing, her thoughts a maelstrom, Garrick's love, Aeloria's light, the clan's salvation. She screamed, her voice a primal force that echoed through the valley, her runes exploding in a final wave of lunar fire that shattered the curse's hold, the air clearing as the feral madness faded completely, the survivors' howls turning to cries of relief, their eyes human once more. But the relic's power demanded a life, and Sorenya's body stilled, her breath fading, her emerald eyes dimming as she cradled Aeloria, her final thought, "Garrick, I'm coming," a whisper in the mate bond's fading echo. Vespera caught Aeloria as Sorenya fell, her own runes flickering, her life force spent, her voice a broken sob. "You did it, daughter." Her thoughts were heavy, redemption achieved, her daughter's sacrifice, the legacy of hope now in Aeloria's tiny hands. Kayal knelt beside them, his calm eyes clouded with grief, his thoughts on Sorenya's courage, the clan's survival, the future now possible. The ruins fell silent, the crescent moon emerging from the clouds, its light bathing Aeloria in a soft glow, her silver-flecked eyes blinking up at the stars. The clans gathered in the ruins, Shadowfang and Blood Moon survivors standing together, their eyes clear, their claws sheathed, the curse's madness gone. Kayal took Aeloria, his voice steady as he addressed the survivors. "Sorenya and Garrick broke the curse. We rebuild for her." His thoughts were resolute, uniting the clans, honoring Sorenya's sacrifice, raising Aeloria as a beacon of hope. The valley grew still, the air clear, the scent of ash fading, replaced by the faint promise of rain.
Moonspire's wilds, scarred but enduring, stood ready for rebirth. Aeloria's light, a new dawn for the clans. Sorenya and Garrick's love, an eternal legacy etched into the stones.